Hello, everybody. A very Merry Christmas to you. What are festivals all about? About celebration, about families getting together, about celebrating a particular time of the year, and definitely about the strengthening of family bonds. Well, today I have a Christmas story for you, and it is from this collection, Celebrate Christmas, a collection of stories about Christmas, and it has been published by Hachette India. The title of my story is The Cupboard. Well, I'm sure you're curious to know what is inside the cupboard. Let's find out. The Cupboard by Deepa Agarwal, that is myself. The news Alpana had been waiting for arrived barely a week before Christmas. Papa was the one who brought it. He surprised them by arriving earlier than usual. A few minutes before the clock struck 7. It was dark as a coal mine outside, and 11-year-old Alpana and her mother were snuggled on the sofa in the living room, with the front door shut tight against the winter chill. It was colder than usual this year, and some of the hills that surrounded the town already showed a sprinkling of white. "Mama, I think we should take out the Christmas tree ornaments tomorrow," Alpana was saying when the sound of a familiar footstep on the veranda steps made her start up. "Papa," she exclaimed, "oh, I was hoping that you'd come early today." "And I guessed it." Papa smiled and tapped her cheek with a chilly finger. "Oh, how nice and cozy it is here." He put down his doctor's bag to warm his hands at the fire that was licking around the pine logs. "When are you going to decorate the tree, my dear? Christmas is almost here." "Tomorrow, I thought," Alpana replied. She chewed her lower lip. Only you were wondering if Nandita was coming, and you wanted to wait for her." Papa's eyes twinkled behind his glasses. Alpana flung a quick glance at Mama before she replied, "Yes." Mama's large eyes were expressionless as Papa said, gazing into the fire, "I got a call from her today. She'll be here tomorrow afternoon." "Tomorrow!" Alpana couldn't help jumping up in delight. "That is good news, isn't it?" Mama said evenly. "We'll have a proper family get-together this time. Imagine, I decided to air her room just today. It's been shut up for such a long time. All we need to do is to make up the bed and put fresh towels in the bathroom." "Wonderful," Papa beamed. "I'll bring the Christmas tree in tomorrow morning. And when Nandita Didi arrives, we can decorate it together." Alpana sighed happily. The buttery December sunshine warmed Alpana's face as she snipped stems of bright red poinsettia flowers from the tall stand near the gate, trying not to get their sticky milk onto her fingers. What a brilliant contrast they made to the vivid blue of the sky. Inside the house, they made everything look Christmassy immediately. She put some in the living room and the rest in Nandita Didi's bedroom. As she entered the house, the rich aroma of gajar ka halwa cooking came to her. The cakes had been baked more than a week ago, but Mama and her helpers would be busy preparing all kinds of goodies till Christmas Day itself. "Which vase shall I put in Nandita Didi's room?" she called out to her mother. You know, muffled by the distance, Mama's voice sounded deeper than usual. The tall, brass one. The poinsettias will look nice in that. It was her sister's favorite vase. Alpana knew that well. Why had she asked Mama? Maybe she wanted some reassurance from her. Such an old vase. Alpana hadn't seen one like it in anyone else's house. Entering the room, she got the usual fluttery feeling in her belly. Kind of nervous and guilty. Was she venturing into a place she wasn't supposed to? She loved her older sister wholeheartedly, but sometimes she felt like an interloper in her room. As she placed the vase on the old-fashioned dresser, she couldn't help sneaking a glance at the cupboard. It was old too, practically antique, like most of the furniture in this room, and it was always locked. Only Nandita had the key. Once, when Alpana was much younger, beside herself with curiosity, she had asked her sister what there was inside the cupboard. My secret treasures, Nandita had replied with a laugh that sounded tinny. Treasures? What treasures, Didi? Can't I see them? Please. When Nandita did not reply, she had said with a pout, But I tell you everything, don't I? That doesn't mean I have to, Nandita had snapped. Learn to respect other people's privacy. Alpana had gasped. She was so shocked. Her sister had never spoken to her like that, so harshly. How could she? Granted, she was much older, a full 14 years older. Granted too that they were not real sisters. They had different mothers. Nandita's mother had died when she was 8 years old, and 5 years later, Papa had married Mama. But weren't they even closer than real sisters? Alpana could never dream of having the slightest tiff with Nandita Didi or making her sad in any way. She left Nandita's room in tears that day. But she blamed herself rather than her sister. Why had she pestered her to open the cupboard? How could she have forgotten? Once, when she was looking for her, Alpana found that Nandita had bolted the door of her room. She knocked, called out to her to open it, but there was no reply. Suddenly, Mama appeared and pulled her away. Don't ever do that again, she said. You mustn't disturb Nandita, Didi, when she is alone in her room. She wants her privacy. Privacy? Alpana had wrinkled her nose. But everyone can come into my room whenever they wish. That's different, Mama had said, giving her a hug. You're a little girl, and Nandita's grown up. That's not fair, Alpana had protested. But somewhere, deep inside, she knew it was more than that. Nandita Didi arrived just as they were about to have lunch. She ran into the house, her delicate face flushed with excitement. Alpu! She cried, hugging her. She tried to pick Alpana up in her arms and whirl her around. Oh my God, you've really grown big, she said. When she couldn't, gasping for breath, she turned to Mama and gave her a polite peck on her cheek. You've seen me after a year and a half, Didi, Alpana pouted. Has it been that long? Nandita narrowed her eyes, then looked away. It is. Last winter you went on a trip with your friends, so you didn't come for Christmas. And in the summer, you said you couldn't get leave, Alpana rattled off. Nandita was silent for a few minutes. and she said in an extra bright voice, "Hmm, I'll make up for it this time. Why is the Christmas tree standing there all bare?" "I was waiting for you to come and decorate it, Didi," Alpana said softly. "All right, we'll get cracking after lunch." Nandita clasped her hands. Wouldn't you like to rest for a while?" Mama asked. "It's a long journey coming here from the city." "I'm not tired at all," Nandita proclaimed in that slightly brusque tone of her voice she used with Mama. Atna's throat choked up. Why didn't her sister feel as happy to see Mama as she was to see Alpana? But how could anyone like the person who had replaced their own mother? The Christmas tree was a glitter with colored glass balls, silvery bells, tinsel, and bright with all the different ornaments they had collected over the years when Papa got home that evening, even earlier than yesterday. Now it feels that Christmas is just around the corner. His smile stretched almost to his ears as he put his arms around Nandita. He had already met her when he received her at the bus stand, but that was for a short time. Nandita began to show him the new ornaments she had brought from the city. Frosted pine cones, sprigs of holly, and little Santa Claus figures. Tomorrow, Alpu and I will go and collect some real cones and decorate them the way we've always done. Nothing can replace the real thing, she said enthusiastically. Atta smiled as she watched them. The thought of not being able to see her parents for such a long time seemed unbearable to her. But Didi was grown up, old enough to work for her living and live alone in a big city. As Papa and Nandita exchanged old jokes, an odd thought floated into her mind. Had Nandita opened her cupboard and checked out her treasures? Suppose something had gone spoiled while she was away, eaten up by insects, the way one of Mama's shawls was one year, or with fungus like those shoes of Papa's that he didn't wear for a long time? She hoped not. It would be terrible to return and find something precious ruined. The festive mood permeated the house so thoroughly that dinner turned into a feast. All of Nandita's favorite dishes had been cooked. Kofta curries, tender green peas, spicy potatoes with puris, and caramel custard for dessert. How wonderful it is to be home. Thanks so much, Mum, for the good food, Nandita said in a dreamy voice as she finished the last spoonful of pudding. She leaned back contentedly and said, "Haven't eaten so well in a long, long time." "Glad you enjoyed it," Mama said softly. She looked pleased, or was it relieved? Edna wasn't sure. What with all the excitement and the yummy dinner, she was so sleepy that all she could think of was bed. "Good night, Didi, Mama, Papa," she kissed everyone drowsily. But as she was advancing towards her room, she thought she heard Nandita whisper to Papa, There's something I want to tell you, Papa," in private. Alpana's eyes widened. What could it be? She knew there were matters her sister shared only with her father. No problem with that. It was the way things were in their home. Mama accepted it too. All the same, she couldn't help feeling curious. As curious as she still was about the locked cupboard. On any other morning, Alpana would have been tempted to snuggle in her quilt a few minutes longer to escape the freezing air outside it. At the moment she opened her eyes, she remembered that Nandita Didi was home. Immediately she jumped out of her bed and rushed to the bathroom. Brrr! How hard it was to brush your teeth when they were chattering. But she had to get ready fast so they could finish decorating the house today. If only Mama would let her have a go at the cake instead of insisting that she should wait till Christmas Eve. Would she really enjoy it more then? The rich, warm aroma tempted her so much. The house was strangely quiet when she stepped out of her room. The new red jacket zipped all the way up. Had she slept that late? No, the clock said it was just 8:30. Papa liked to finish breakfast by 9, so they should be at the dining table. But Nandita's door was closed. Maybe she was in the living room. No one here either. Where was everyone? When she wandered into the dining room, she saw Mama seated at the table, sipping a cup of tea, all alone. Papa had to leave early to tend to a patient, she said, popping a slice of bread into the toaster. And I think Nandita is still sleeping. Alpana pulled out a chair silently and sat down. A shaft of sunlight was streaming in through the skylight, but the room felt stale and dull today, not bright and merry as it had last night. She must be tired, Mama continued. Her eyes were a bit puffy as if she hadn't slept too well, and the edges of her mouth looked pinched. It was a long journey, first on the overnight train, then the 4-hour bus ride. Yesterday she was too excited to feel it. Do you want scrambled eggs or an omelette, Alpana? Neither, Alpana wanted to say, but she didn't want to make things more difficult for Mama. She chewed her toast slowly, hoping that Nandita would suddenly appear at the door calling out, Alpu, you're ready! I'll be back in a minute. But Nandita didn't appear even after she drained her glass of milk. Let's go and pick some mustard greens for lunch, Mama said, putting down her teacup. Nandita will enjoy the fresh vegetables. And then I need to get back to my Christmas cooking. When they got back, Kamla, the maid, told them that Nandita had had her breakfast. Alpana tiptoed to her room. She hoped to find the door open, but it was shut, and she could hear her sister talking to someone. Her voice had that tremulous tone which showed that she was upset. Alpana's stomach slid into her shoes. Something had gone wrong, she was convinced. But overnight, she remembered the whispered exchange with Papa. No, she was imagining things. Nandita might be talking to someone at work. Maybe she would come out in a minute and say, Come along, Alpu, let's go and collect some pine and deodar cones from the forest. Nandita did appear, half an hour before lunch. Alpana was putting up wreaths and other decorations on the veranda. She got very restless just sitting around. Also, she couldn't bear it that the house was looking half done and far from festive. The carol singers would come that night and she wanted to welcome them properly. She almost jumped when a whiff of perfume wafted to her and turned around with a smile of anticipation. Nandita Didi looked very smart in her navy blue coat and shocking pink scarf. Different somehow. Alpana had never seen her with so much makeup on. Good job, Alpu, she said. But her face remained blank and her eyes were as opaque as pebbles. Alpana was about to reply when Nandita spoke again. Tell Mom that I'm meeting a friend in town and won't have lunch. Alpana was dumbstruck to think they had gone and picked vegetables especially for her. But how would she know? She watched her sister walk away, not daring to ask, "Who, Didi?" She knew all her friends, the ones who had grown up in this town. Most of them had left to take up jobs in the cities or got married. Mama just shrugged when she passed on the message. "You could go and collect the cones yourself," she said, "and decorate them the way you did last year." Alpna nodded, though she wanted to yell out, "But it was supposed to be different this year. We were supposed to do it together." "One of Nandita's city friends is here," Mama continued. "Then why hasn't she invited her here?" Alpna interrupted. "It's Christmas time. Wouldn't she enjoy doing things with us?" Mama sighed. "Oh, it's never mind." She rose abruptly, leaving her lunch half eaten. "You're wasting food, Mama!" Alpna wanted to cry. She was seething inside. Why was everyone being so strange and mysterious? Didn't she have a right to know if something was wrong? But she knew if she asked, Mama would say, "You're a little girl." She rose in a fury. She'd go off, take a long, long walk, take her time coming back, let them get worried. It would serve them right. As she went past her sister's room, she noticed the door slightly ajar. Almost without thinking, she opened it and peeped in, as if the key to the mystery lay here. What a mess! Clothes were strewn all over the room, even on the ground. This is why she doesn't let anyone in, she thought irrationally. Then, as usual, her eyes found their way to the cupboard. Her heartbeat stopped. The lock was hanging open. She stood there for several minutes, rooted to the spot. A terrible roaring filled her ears as her thoughts clawed at each other violently. Should she? Should she not? There was no one around. Didi had gone, would be away for some time. Mama was busy frying samosas. Why shouldn't she take a look? Why did Nandita Didi shut her out? Why had she let her down today? Maybe she would find out what was in there. It could be important. Her hands trembled as she opened the cupboard. A faint, musty smell came out of it. The smell of rooms long kept shut, mingled with the sharp scent of lavender. Her breath came quick as she stared at the contents. Nothing that mysterious or valuable. Saris hung in straight rows inside, and flat bundles wrapped in muslin were neatly stacked on the shelves. So many saris? Nandita hardly ever wore them. She would put one on for church on Christmas Day, but rarely otherwise. As she gazed at the saris mystified, realization hit her on the head hard. The saris looked old, not only old but also old-fashioned. Alpana's head swam. Now she knew why Nandita always kept the cupboard locked. She felt slightly sick, embarrassed too, as if she had chanced upon someone naked in the bathroom. Why did she have to pry? Hadn't she known somewhere what the cupboard contained? She could well believe how valuable it was for Nandita, though it still didn't really explain why Didi shut her out. She wanted to run away now. Hastily she closed the cupboard and hung the lock back. As she was leaving, her eye fell on a blue velvet-covered box lying on the bed. It looked old too, and the lid was half open. Before she looked away, Alpana noticed a loop of glossy pearls hanging out, sort of creamy white in color. She had seen enough, however. She didn't want to explore any further. Nandita returned just half an hour before Papa did and vanished into the room. Papa entered the house slowly, with feet that dragged with exhaustion. The line on his forehead didn't go away when he smiled at Alpna. I must say the house is looking really nice, he said, like a visitor making a polite comment. Well done, my dear. Nandita didn't come out to greet him. She appeared only when the clock struck 8. They had an early dinner, since the carol singers were coming at 9. And it was one of the most miserable meals Alpna had ever had. Because Papa seemed to be pretending that Nandita was not there, sitting at the table, and she as if Papa was invisible. How thankful Alpna was when the carol singers came. At least the festive feeling was restored during the time they were there, and Papa and Nandita acted normal for a while. The carol singers left at 10:15 after feasting on cake, samosas, gajar ka halwa and drinking plenty of hot sweet tea to keep them warm. The moment they did, Nandita turned on her heel and made for her room. Papa stared at her back helplessly. What is wrong with both of you silly people? Alpana wanted to cry. She glanced at Mama. Why couldn't she explain at least? The expression on Mama's face turned her into a lump of ice. She looked furious and her eyes were shooting sparks at Papa. Alpana couldn't bear it any longer. She fled to her room and cried herself to sleep. She woke up with a slight headache and didn't want to get out of bed. The idea of another miserable day ahead was unbearable. And the day after was Christmas Eve. Today, even Mama wasn't there at breakfast. Something unbelievable. Even Kamla's round, smiling face sagged with gloom. Should she take off to her best friend Binny's house? Only she would have to explain why she was not spending time with her sister. Eventually, she took a book and sat in the gazebo behind the house, struggling to concentrate. Probably she dozed off because she awoke with a start when she heard Mama calling out to her. To her surprise, Nandita was already seated at the dining table when she got there. Where have you been, Alpu? She said, her voice as tinky as breaking glass. I was looking for you. Reading, Alpana said shortly, helping herself to rice and dal. Shall we collect some more cones after lunch? Some holly too, perhaps? We can arrange them on the mantelpiece. And if we can find some mistletoe, Nandita's voice quivered suddenly. Okay. Alpana wished she could force herself to sound enthusiastic. But too much was happening. Now she just wanted this Christmas to slip into the past like a bad dream. Well, they go out to look for cones and holly and they get back. But when they return, as Alpana put a foot on the veranda steps, the sound of loud voices jolted her to a halt. It was Papa and Mama. Why are you so determined to ruin everyone's Christmas? Alpana had never heard Mama speak so angrily to Papa. Your daughter's come home after a year and a half and all you can do. She's the one who's ruining it, Papa sounded even more furious. No, it's you. Give her a chance. She's an adult now and can decide whom she wants to marry. It's her life. You let her go and stay in the city by herself, and now you don't trust her judgment. Nandita let out a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. Alta's skin suddenly felt too tight for her body. She couldn't breathe or move. Don't talk about judgment. Papa's voice was as jagged as a saw. I can't let her throw herself away on any old person. If it were Alpana in her place, would you offer the same advice? The silence squeezed Alpana's throat like a noose. Then Mama replied so slowly, if it were Alpana, I would do the same. I can write it down and sign it if it could convince you. What a fool I am. I should have stayed out of this and let you ruin your relationship with your daughter. So it seems that the family Christmas is ruined, but eventually, guess what happens? The house was bursting with cheer on Christmas Eve, the day they exchanged gifts. Miss Kumar, who used to teach Alpana in class 5, was there as usual, as was old Mr. Robert, who always dressed up as Santa Claus, along with Binny, her friend, and her parents. There was someone new there too. A short and somewhat chubby young man with a ready smile. Nandita introduced him as my friend Sameer. There was the usual oohing and eyeing when the gifts were opened, followed by thanking and hugging. But when Mama opened Nandita's gift, she couldn't speak for several seconds. This is too much, Nandita, she said finally in a choked voice. No, it isn't, Nandita said firmly. I want you to have it, Mama. Her eyes held Mama's for a long moment, and there was an unusual warmth in them. The string of pearls looked vaguely familiar, but it was hard for Alpana to be absolutely sure. Only when Papa cleared his throat and rubbed his eye sneakily that she knew she had guessed right. Well, sometimes the old stories can bring a tear to your eye. But I hope you enjoyed this Christmas story, the story of family togetherness being cemented on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, everyone, and have a wonderful time. Goodbye now.